Okay, so my mic was a bit loud last time. I don't know. I think it's fixed now. Maybe. Let me just lower it a bit more. Anyway, so um, this is going to be a shorter theory. This is the 16PF by Cattell. Now, this isn't in our book, but it's in our coverage. So yeah. I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, so this is really short, and it's really easy to get, I would say. So he used this is a theory. The 16 personality theory, or the 16PF, is um, a theory by Raymond Cattell, and he used something called factor analysis to explore personality, which is a sophisticated psychometric technique. So from the word psychometric, this uses a lot of math. And so he wanted to figure out heredity versus environment. So basically nature versus nurture. And all human traits can be categorized into 16 distinct traits. Now, I'm not really going to get into that because, but yeah, so for context, Raymond Cattell is a mathematician, and he used math. Basically, the reason why we use math in psychology even is because of this guy. So um yeah, so he wanted to figure out heredity versus environment, so nature versus nurture. Now, his definition for personality is interesting because to him, personality is what permits a prediction of what a person will do in a given situation. Again, it is what permits uh, it is that which permits a prediction of what a person will do in a given situation. So, according to Cattell, his definition of personality is basically just your reaction when to presented in a given situation. So, as you can see, he even has a formula here, and the formula is R equals F PS. So R is basically the response, and that's what personality means to him. Now, this response is it comes out of a function, and that function is basically the situation. And then the person and the stimuli put together, along with the situation, their reaction or their behavior when presented with these factors is basically R, or what personality is to Cattell. So, the pioneering work of Cattell. So, first he used the inductive method of gathering data, which is a bottom-up approach. Now, this is different from other theorists because the other theorists at the time used deductive methods, which means they have their own hypotheses, they have their own theories before they even collect the data, which can cause some personal bias. And as we know, because Cattell is a mathematician, he didn't really, he tried his best to really stray away from any bias because numbers. The second, he used three different media of observation. So to examine people. So the three are the person's life record, the person's self-reports, and the person's and the objective tests. So P data, Q data, and T data. Person's life record basically means, you know, an objective view on their life, like their past life. So, for their life in the past. So, actually looking through records, seeing the actual data, right, or seeing the actual true, undeniable data. And then self-reports is basically if you ask the person questions like how they saw the situations and how in the word itself, self-reports. And objective tests are tests that you take to measure to measure certain data. So that's another set of data that you can measure. Now, the third one is that he divided traits into common and unique. He also distinguished source traits from trait indicators or surface traits. So let's talk about common and unique. So I think it's very self-explanatory, Common traits are common, it's present in many people. And then unique traits, it's kanang to you, it's, it's somewhat, you can kind of connect that to the last central dispositions, unique to the person. But anyway, yeah, common and unique traits. And then there's source and surface traits. Source and surface, we'll talk about that later on. Now he classified them. He classified these. What did he classify? I'm just realizing this now. Data maybe? He classified them? Okay. I think he classified the traits. Or basta he classified something, okay? No, this is not really that well explained. Anyway, so he classified them into temperament, motivation, and ability. So let's take a look at that. So temperament is how a person behaves. So basically, yeah, how they are just themselves, how a person behaves. And then the motivation is why a person behaves that way. And then ability is how far or how fast or how well a person will perform that behavior. So temperament, for example, if you are in a fight or flight situation, your temperament would either be to fight or to flight. Now your motivation would reason why you would fight or flight. And then ability measures how well, how far, and how fast you could either fight or flight. That's basically it. Now, surface traits and source traits. Surface traits are clusters of overt behavior responses that appear to go together, such as integrity, honesty, self-discipline, and thoughtfulness. Now, source traits are underlying variables that seem to determine surface manifestation, in this case, ego strength. Now, so in this example, it's talking about how, your surface traits may be to, be in integrity, honesty, show self-discipline, show thoughtfulness. That's your surface traits, meaning you're showing that outside. You're letting it, be seen by other people. Ang surface traits ang source traits the difference between surface traits and source traits, apart from the fact that you can't see source traits, sometimes you can, but source traits are basically underlying variables. In a sense, it's what's actually true. So this determines the surface manifestation. So in this case, the source trait is actually ego strength, because they're kanang inflating their own ego. They're feeding their own ego by doing all of this stuff like honesty, integrity, thoughtfulness. I would say that an example of this, or to put it simply, I would say is, surface traits is how you actually, or how you perceive yourself and how you portray yourself, more like how you portray yourself to the outside world. And your source traits is how you actually see, how you actually are inside. So an example of this would be, if I had a job, and my job, like take me as an example, I am an introvert and I am shy. So those are kind of my traits that I possess. Those are my source traits. Now, if in the case that I get employed into a job that requires me to be extroverted or not shy, the opposite of shy, then that would be my surface traits, because I am, I'm portraying this kind of idea that I am not what I am. But this is not to say nga they're always at odds. It doesn't mean that. Surface traits and source traits doesn't always have to be opposites. They can actually align. So your source trait can be your surface trait, and but there are times like this where it's opposite, and then that's why you would have to differentiate between what you see and what you portray towards the outside world and who you actually are. So that's basically it for the 16 PF. It's very short, very simple. I didn't really mention 16 distinct traits. I'm not really gonna study that because lol. So yeah.